You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Well, welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Super excited about having you guys join with us on another show. Hey, if you guys are listening in on your lawnmower or as you guys go down the road or just get your day started, hey, I'm right there with you. It's always exciting to have good stuff going into your brain and just have some good mind food, right? So today, we actually have a little bit different kind of an episode here. We have one that is brought to you guys by Graham Spray Equipment, and we actually have a guest on the line, and we're going to do a little bit more of a conversation, opening it up about treatments, fertilizer, how to grow that part of your business. So many of you guys ask me how to continue to grow that part of your business because there's a lot of profit, a lot of good margins in it. We've had Jason Creel on the show. We've had John Pajak. A lot of great resources out there for that. But if you guys don't know the name Teddy Mathis, which some of you do, because Teddy is an industry leader with turf treatments, and he's been around the block for a little while now. But we have this gentleman on the line with us. So Teddy, welcome to the show. How you doing, brother?
Doing great, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, it's excited about having you on the show. You, again, have a huge background in running an owner-operator business and growing it almost to the 7-figure mark, which is just incredible. And Teddy, these guys are hungry. They want to know more about fertilizer, treatments, how to grow a business. I think we're going to talk a little bit about the transition you made into working for Graham Spray Equipment a little bit later in the show. So a little plug for these guys as they put together this episode for us. So for the people that don't know you, Teddy, why don't you give them a little bit maybe of a background on yourself, maybe help get these guys up to speed, and then we'll start breaking things down to help them grow their businesses.
Sure. Well, I grew up in western North Carolina out in the very rural portions on a farm, and man, I was sick of that and went into the Army, and thought that I was going to stay there, and I served during Desert Storm. Got out a little bit after that, didn't know exactly what I was going to do, and then got turned toward, believe it or not, the insurance world and financial planning.
Okay.
And things of that nature. And in 1995, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. I moved down here to be a financial planner, and my company got bought. And my next door neighbor happened to be just starting. I guess he was in his second year in a chemical lawn care business, and this it wasn't as accepted as it is today. But he asked me while I was putting out my resumes if I would ride around with him, teach him how to sell and that. And anyway, he had about 250 customers. And in the next 4 weeks, we were up over 400. And he asked me, he said, "What will it take to keep you?" And I guess that farm boy in me really enjoyed it. And I said, we came to an agreement, and for the next 5 years, I helped him run his company and obviously learned how to spray and got my wheels under me as far as that goes. And then in 2000, late 2000, I started my own company and ran it until 2017, and we were doing right at $750,000 worth of business a year. And
wow.
And then I decided to sell it in 2017, and came to work with Graham Spray Equipment.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. That's actually a pretty diverse background. So you've done it from financial planning to insurance and insurance sales to fertilizing lawns and treatments and back into the green industry, which is crazy. Did you ever have a background when you were younger in the green industry, or was it just a means to an end? And like you said, you wanted to get out of the insurance and financial planning services, or what was the story there?
Well, when I was a child, we lived on a farm for a large portion of that time, and of course, we grew tobacco in the North Carolina area and vegetables and so forth. So I had grown up that way, and my family was had a large farm up in Western North Carolina by Western Carolina University. And so I guess that's where it kind of started at.
Okay. Okay. Very cool. And so, so we're going to talk a little bit more, because this episode is sponsored and brought to you guys by Graham Spray Equipment. They wanted to share a little bit more of what they got going on, and I said absolutely. And when they said we work with Teddy Mathis, I said I know Teddy. I know of Teddy. I didn't know you personally, but Jason Creel has talked about you, and so I said, well, if Jason Creel knows you, I mean, I'm buds with Jason, and let's talk about these guys. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about the Graham Spray rigs and just the cool stuff that you guys have access to that you're bringing to the market. But I said, before we do though, when I found out your whole background and story that you ran, almost $1 million, turf treatment business, I said, holy cow, I have so many listeners that want to learn how to grow their business, Teddy. And I said, if you're already at that point where a lot of these guys are trying to get to, and you sold it off and had a successful run, let's talk about it. So, so let's go back to the story where you were working with your neighbor, and you guys were just selling and just growing that business gangbusters. And then you decided to start your own. What gave you the inclination to start your own? Because technically you would have been like competition to the guy helping you and coaching you in the industry. So how did that whole, scenario play out?
Well, as we grew, in the first 3 years, we went from 250 customers to a little over 1,200.
Wow.
And honestly, back then, that was before we had the wonderful internet and all of that stuff. So we did most of it just by knocking doors and putting flyers out, mailbox to mailbox and so forth. But again, I had education in business. And so as we built it, I saw what great margins that it had, and as most would know, if you spread your money out over a large amount of people, that is also a lot of security as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw it from a business point of view of being one of the best businesses I'd ever seen.
Okay.
And so I thought, well, if I can build this for him, I can do this for me. And he and I got, we made an agreement that I would go to another county about 25 miles away.
Okay.
And I worked for him during the day. And then at night for a year and a half, I would get in the truck. I would go knock doors. I would do whatever I could to build my little business. And in about a year and a half, I got it to where I had replaced my income with him almost. And so I went ahead and made the leap at that point.
Wow. And he, did you use his spray equipment, or did he didn't have any issue with that, or how did you guys
Actually, I did.
Wow.
Yeah, I used it, but now he volunteered that. He and I had, through those 3-4 years, we'd spent a lot of time together, as you can imagine, in the truck and all of that stuff, and had great success together. And so we built a very close-knit relationship. And so when I started out, I literally would carry my magnets for his truck and in the truck, and my T-shirts or shirts or whatever, and I would go after I had done whatever I needed to do with him. I would take off and go to the next county and build my business.
Wow. What revenue did you guys grow his business to, if you don't mind me asking? Like, how many customers from 350 to 1,200? That's got to be $500,000 or more, maybe.
Yeah, he was doing at the probably closer to about $800,000 when I left him.
That's awesome. And a lot of guys are going to ask, because I hear this all the time, fertilizer treatments. I have a subcontractor that does my residential and mostly my commercial stuff. And we branched out to offering that to our residential because, why not? But what kind of profit margins can you expect doing treatments? Because I get asked that question a ton.
Well, in our case, after we paid everything, the margin was about 50%, somewhere between 35 and 50%, depending on the application.
Wow.
And of course, your fertilizer rounds are typically your most expensive, or your pre-emergent rounds.
Yeah.
And down here in the South, really agriculturally, 7-8 treatments a year is proper.
Okay.
So you should be able to, if you're running your numbers correctly, you should be able to make somewhere between 35 and 50%.
That's awesome. That's extremely profitable and very healthy. So,
Yeah.
like you said, when you have an $800,000 a year business and you're netting, north of $300,000-400,000, that's pretty good. I hear a lot of guys that we've had guests on the podcast, and they even have their own content, and they talk about treatments all day long. And now I will say this, and maybe you can weigh in if you can. For me, I run a mostly lawn maintenance business, so we have about 75, 80 residentials that we take care of, a half dozen HOAs, half dozen commercial sites. So for us, we're there every week, with lawn maintenance. So we need about 100 clients to, I guess you could say, to make the income that I want to make, north of 150, south of 200. Did you notice that you had to have 3-4x that, like you were just alluding to be able to fill up your whole fertilizer route, since you only have one, or maybe, I guess one treatment a month? Is that what you're saying?
It was about every 6 weeks. And
okay.
Yes, you're going to need, to make 150 as a sole operator, you're going to need about 600 customers typically.
Okay.
Somewhere between there. Now that, being here at Graham now, I've had the wonderful ability to talk with customers all over the country.
Oh, sure.
And so the markets are greatly different, depending on where you're at. And here in Atlanta, and again, back in the day when we started, there was very, very few companies in the 90s and even into the mid 2000s. Now it has gotten a little more competitive. And so some of the margin has dropped a little bit, but it's still such a great business.
How did you guys compete with like the national companies back in the day, like the True Greens, the Scotts, there's so many big names. Those are regionally large by us, but I'm pretty sure those are national. Did you get the first application for $24.95 type guys? Would that be something that you offered that was a key to your guys' success with signing up so many new customers, or was it, like you said, just a lack of competition, or a little bit of both?
Well, I think it was the lack of competition, and the ability to market today is so much greater. Back then you were competing with things that necessarily wasn't right in their face like it is today.
Right.
Some of the bigger guys today have these wonderful, big, huge marketing budgets, and they can throw everything all over the, YouTube and
Facebook,
Google,
Instagram,
and blah, 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 everywhere, and back then it was, they were in yellow pages and they did some direct mailers and things like that. But the advantage we had was that we were the local guy, and we were also in a very nice market that was growing. I think at the time the county we lived in was the second fastest growing county in the country.
Oh, wow.
And so, it was a great timing as well. But I think the advantage even still to this day is, and I love the big companies, don't get me wrong. People enjoy the local expert. And the person that taught me had a degree from Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College down in Tifton, Georgia.
Okay.
And then over the years, I amassed an equivalent degree of a master's degree in turf management and ornamental care. So we tried to get very involved with the community, and we were your neighbor.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what we played off of, is that, hey, we're your local guys right here. And oddly enough, he and I had a kind of a unique, funny situation that he and I looked very, very similar. Most people that would see us out working, they would say, "Are you guys twins?" So we played on that a little bit in some, with some, back then advertisements on the side of the road, and
Sure.
even with our signage and stuff, they would that we would leave in yards. We would kind of play off of that a little bit.
That's awesome. Well, it's funny because you're doing this in the, like you said, the 90s and 2000s, and even here today, we're always talking about you got to have route density, you have to marketing and branding. Was that stuff just as important back in the 90s for you guys?
Oh, absolutely. In business in general, I have owned 5 businesses over the years. I actually own. I don't only now work with Graham, but I also own another business, and I can tell you that in business in general, the guy who markets the most wins.
Sure.
In our industry, not to use any names, but the guys that you could amass most of us, and we couldn't pay the taxes of the big guys that they market the best. And I think one of the biggest things, now, not to downplay quality at all, I think that if you're going to do the work, you give your customer the very best and highest quality you can, obviously. But I've seen much more success through marketing and understanding the reinvestment into your business. I think more than anything else, I think the biggest mistake that most owner-operators make is that they want to know everything there is to know about grass, and they want to do the highest quality work, and they really don't know their numbers of what they're doing. So and that's admirable, but all too often in business, that will also drive you out of business.
Well, you and I were talking before we hit record, because we were just kind of shotgunning some ideas around. And I said, Teddy, these guys are hungry. Like, they want to grow. They want to make more money. I said, common things are said right now, like know your numbers or know your worth, which is totally true, totally factual. But you said, well, you go, brother, we've been doing that since the 90s. And,
Sure.
and I like that, because you said that with your background in insurance sales and then also, financial planning for a while, you were looking at spreadsheets and financial statements all the time. And so that really helped you, have that maybe that gyroscope on your business, where you were able to track these numbers and make sure you guys were doing a good job. Do you want to weigh in on that at all? Like, is that a fair assessment of taking that background and putting it into the green industry, and then it's worked great for you?
Yes, absolutely. I think most of us guys that do this for a living, we are very good at what we do. We do a great service and customer service, but most of us come into this business with not a lot of business knowledge or experience. And
Sure.
If you watch a show on TV called The Prophet by Marcus Lemonis, he's the CEO of Camping World, and the first thing he's going to say, and I suggest that series for anybody in business, no matter what business you're in, but he's going to preach on know your numbers, know your numbers, know your numbers. And so we made daily spreadsheets of how much product we used, the amount of time invested, the amount of gas, what the light bill cost per day. All of that was factored into some Excel spreadsheets. So I knew exactly how much money we were making. And then once you get the amount of money you're making, is now how do you redistribute that money? How much do you keep of it for yourself? How much of it do you invest back into the business in equipment, marketing, and all of that? And then you track in your marketing, for example, you put these marketing pieces out there where you have to track each and every one of those. Now, we did it through coupons or offers or something like that, so that you know what is producing well, that you get the maximum return on your investment. So knowing all of those numbers is paramount to any business. A lot of guys will turn around and say, "Man, I've worked my tail off. But where did my money go?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
shame on you.
Yeah.
You have to know where your money goes.
What did you guys have, like, any litmus, like any guiding amount, or whether it was a dollar figure or a percentage base? That I get that question a bunch. Like, we talk about marketing all the time, and in my attitude, and again, I'm not 7% of all gross sales. I'm like, dude, whatever it takes to get the phone to ring. Because when we talk about customer acquisition cost, I'm like, look, if you do $725 a year or $1,500 a year with a customer, I said, arguably spend $1,500 to get the customer that does $1,500 a year. Now, you don't need to do that, but I said, whether you spend $1 and you get $1,500 a year from that new customer, great. If you spend $1,500 and you break even year one, great, because you'll profit, on year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I said, but what if you spent $2,000 acquiring a customer that only did $1,500 a year, and you took a loss, but you had a 5-year contract or whatever?
Right.
There's no right or wrong answer, but so I just want to keep the wheels turning for people, because I heard a friend named Josh talk about this, and it really opened my eyes to be, as a small business owner, we're so quick to spend money on tools and equipment and trucks, and I just see small business owners where if I could ever make a critique, it would be to reinvest money into advertising and marketing. So was there any guiding I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but like 7% of all gross sales, or $10,000 a year, or did you guys have a certain budget for that kind of stuff?
We did. It was 10% of all gross sales.
Okay.
And that seemed to work extremely well. But we also needed more. And being a small company, an extremely small company at first, we had to be creative. And so we did everything that you could think of. Things today that in most municipalities is not legal anymore. We used to go mailbox to mailbox. We'd go door knocking. Surprisingly, if still today, now, of course, I've been out of the business for about 3 years, but the most effective marketing I ever done was I would get out on a Saturday or in the afternoons after I'd gotten off work and knock a few doors. I wanted to dress a little nicer, do my hair, and, knock doors and let them know, hey, I live right down the street, and that's a good way of keeping. You mentioned route density a while ago. Now that is everything in the spray business, because it's very low numbers. Typically a ticket's going to be, somewhere in some markets between $35 and, a large yard is going to be $70 or maybe $90 or whatever. So you need a lot of them, but the less windshield time that you have, you can knock a lot of them out. Most guys spray 1,000 square feet a minute.
Yep.
And so you've got to be able to turn and burn. Well, not only on the yard, but in distance between the yards means everything as well.
Well, I was going to say that's pretty funny, because we talk about that a lot on my podcast with lawn maintenance, because like you said, the margin is so small. So we make it up in volume, and so we'll be doing 20, 30, 40 lawns a day in 1 or 2 subdivisions, and we just haul, and we have very little windshield time. But it's funny, because this takes me all the way back to my fertilizer days working with one of the national companies, and we had production numbers, man, every single day. It was 12, 13, 1,400, and if you had 2 or 3 lawns that you couldn't do because backdoor gate was locked, they have a pool party, which they don't tell you. You've ever had those happen, Teddy, and you can't go spray that day, and you would lose 2 or 3 accounts per day, like not being able to produce. But if you wanted to get Saturday off, you had to hit a certain production number by Friday. Or if you did come in on Saturday, they would pay you like 2 or 3% extra on your bonus of any like production work. And so that's how they were able to get so many people to come in on Saturdays. And I just remember it was all production. It was all route density. And I learned that stuff from them. They're a fertilizer company that sells, but I always joked they were a selling company that happened to flirt on the side,
I'm not sure if we're talking about the same company, but I have a funny story about that. But
go for it.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go for it if you got it.
Yeah, there was a big national company, and they had a lot of test areas down here around Atlanta. And one of my customers was the area vice president of sales for them.
Oh, okay.
For 2.5 years. And I asked him one day, I was like, this seems, odd to me that you would not allow your own company to do your lawn.
Sure.
And he said, Teddy, we're not a lawn care company. He said, we're a marketing company that lawn care just happens to be the product that we offer. And I went, and so, again, that's probably where I learned in this industry for sure that how important the marketing was.
Sure. Well, that's what we talk about all day long, on our podcast and our YouTube channel. Like I there's just like these little things I heard along my come up in business. And by the way, I'm still on the come up, but I remember reading in Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. Totally doesn't relate to what we're talking about, but kind of does, because somebody said, well, I'm a really good author, and they were asking Robert Kiyosaki, why didn't their book sell? And Robert said, well, look at the cover of my book that you're holding, at one of his seminars, and it says best-selling author, not best written author, like not best writer. And he goes, well, I'm a salesman and you're a writer. Now, I'm a salesman who wrote a book, but you're a writer who can't sell. And
right.
And I've always heard the same thing, guys. Like, if you're listening in, of course, the prerequisite is you got to do a good job. You got to mow grass correctly, fertilize correctly. But again, the equalizer, like if I was going to say, hey, if you're going to get lost in the weeds on something, get lost in the weeds on the marketing, the fertilizer, or the marketing, the route density, the sales. Do you have any other practical tips that helped you guys out with like customer referral programs? I get a lot of folks wanting to know how to get new customers, and on one of my training websites, we have a whole program dedicated to that. But because that's the number one question I get is, how do I get new customers? Followed by, how do you price? And pricing is so dynamic, but getting customers, I mean, whether you're from, Georgia to Michigan to, Maryland to Arizona or California, I mean, they're getting customers is very, very similar. So was there any great ways for you to drum up new business and to have this rapid growth that you guys had for your friend's company and then also your company that you think could translate to today?
Yeah, what I would suggest for anyone, especially the owner operators or the smaller businesses, million less, maybe has 5 or 6 guys working for you, I would suggest to be a part of your local chamber of commerce.
Okay.
I would also try to find some type of networking events outside of your chamber. There's a lot of them typically all over the place that are free to you, but there are things like BNIs or things like that you can pay and be exclusive in.
Sure.
Those seem to produce very well, and the reasoning behind that is you get to know those people personally. And so anytime that anyone in their sphere of influence says, I need a lawn care guy, well, guess who they're going to talk about? And that is you.
I love it.
And I used to sell literally between $30,000 and $60,000 a year worth of business per marketing team I was a part of, and I was a part of 2.
Wow.
And then, of course, yes, you always, people have asked me, I do quite a bit of mentorship here at Graham with new guys.
Okay.
Or people young in the business. And the question I always get is how do you get referrals? Mm-hmm. You got to ask for them. And yes, you can incentivize. Absolutely, I would incentivize. But if you just ask, if your customer base is 200, 300, try to make a practice out of your weekly routine to give 20 customers a call just to check in on them. Get to, hey, how are you doing? I wanted to say thank you for the business. By the way, do you know anyone else or could you help me out?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I used to say. Could you help me out and keep your ears open for me and maybe refer me? And if you do, I'll send you to dinner somewhere, or something like that, or I'll take $20 off of your next lawn application, or something to that effect. But call your customers and ask them.
I love it.
That would be the best advice I could give you. Or as you see them, most I see a lot of guys in this industry that's a little bit too introverted. So when they're on the lawns, they would prefer that the customer just leave them alone, let me get through my 15, 20, 25 yards,
sure.
and, let me go, but I used to train my guys, when that customer comes out, that lawn is not ever going to pay you a dime, but that customer is the one that sends the checks or pays the bill. Make them feel like $1 million, and just ask them when you see them, hey, how's your family, blah, blah, blah. And, hey, would you mind to help me out and keep your ears open if any of your neighbors or family or whatever, please refer them to me. I'd sure appreciate it.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, and that used to produce a ton of business for me.
It's funny. What did they say? Like, word of mouth marketing is like the best form of marketing. And I would kind of lump referrals into that, whether you ask for them or they're more passive, and they see you, and then their neighbor calls your client says, yeah, we use Teddy, and they hook you up. That word of mouth marketing is going to be around forever, and
Sure.
And that's again where it always comes full circle to doing quality work, doing a good job, but just being a kind, friendly person in the community, and that pays huge dividends. I'm just thinking about so many practical examples there, and I love the one about like you said, networking at the Chamber of Commerce. My friend, one of my friends, Keith, he is part of his local chamber, and actually, I think it was like last summer or last fall. He was invited to speak as the keynote at his chamber, and there was 500 people there. I mean, these are his peers. These are small business owners, big business owners, in his whole city. And I went there to shoot some videos with him because it was just a really cool speaking opportunity for him. And he was, he's Cool Hand Luke, but speaking in front of 500 people in your town that. It's one thing when you make a YouTube video and nobody's watching, but it's like, this guy owns the bakery, this guy owns the steakhouse, this guy owns the 3-car dealerships. Like, this were all the small business owners in town. And, he was like, dude, I'm actually kind of nervous. And he's like, I don't get nervous. And I said, better you than me. So I said, you're up there, not on the firing line, not me. But I went there to support him. But it was cool because he did a presentation about helping these guys grow their social media business, and he's just really good at that. And it was cool because when he got done, he booked, like he said, like for the next 6 weeks, everybody there needed lawn and landscaping done, and window cleaning. And, he's like, I went there for the opportunity. I went there to speak and, help these guys out. But he goes, indirectly, I picked up, I don't know, $10, $20, $30,000 worth of business, because he was like now the known landscaping and window cleaning guy. And yep. I think that's, okay, so a membership is $100 a year, $1,000 a year. I don't know. But you get 1 or 2 jobs, it already pays for itself. And like you said, you got to be known as the Teddy, the fertilizer guy. You got to be known as Brian, the lawn guy. Like I have customers that I'm trying to help them put a credit card on file sometimes with one of our programs, and they might be older, and they I see them in person and they're like, hey, I'm trying to sign up with this thing. How do I do this again? And I'm like, just give me your phone. And it's funny because like they'll hand me their phone and sometimes their contact list is open and like it says Brian, lawn guy. Like, so it's not like Brian Fullerton, or it's not even Brian's lawn maintenance. It's like Brian parentheses lawn guy. And so they equate like me as lawn care is me. And so you want to be known as that guy. And some of these are like old school tips. I know it's like the most remedial stuff, but like this is where you can, blossom your business. Hey, Teddy, I got a question for you. And this might be just a fun one that I'm just thinking out loud, kind of being a dork. But if you were going to go back into your prime, with your business, and you were, slaying dragons and, going 100 miles an hour, Do you think that you would have the same growth today? Do you think it'd be harder? Do you think it'd be easier? And what's your take on, would you just be crushing it with social media and Facebook and Google and targeted ads? Like, do you think in a perfect storm, doing what you did 20 years ago, do you think you would have grown as fast today or even multiples of with utilizing technology today?
I think today it would be multiples of.
I think so too.
If I went back into business today, I could do today in a year what it used to take me 3 years at least.
Amen.
To do.
I think so too.
There's just so many tools that, like you said, for that gentleman to get in front of 500, that was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Today with Facebook and other social media, I mean, you can target and get in front of 3,000 people today,
mm-hmm.
and posting video and like we're doing right now, podcasting, and all of this wonderful technology has done nothing except play right into this industry.
That's awesome.
And I think all of the service industry, but you can be involved in multiple ways,
mm-hmm.
and get your message out so much quicker and quite frankly so much cheaper. I mean, when I first started in 2000, I took out my first quarter page Yellow Pages ad, which most of the guys that probably listen to this don't even know what Yellow Pages is,
Yeah.
And that used to cost $600-$800 a month, just for that one thing that was going to go and sit on somebody's coffee table.
Right.
Today you can do target marketing, in social media for $100 in my other business. Yeah. I mean, $100 is a good budget for it, and I think stuff like that, and again, these networkings with other people,
mm-hmm.
It's easier to refer today. Used to people, we maybe, in the 2000s, we had our cell phones that they might or might not have my number in.
Yeah.
Well, today, they can say, well, boom, 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 right here's his website,
mm-hmm.
Or you can create an app for very reasonable money that it's just nothing more than here, boom, or if my number chances
mm-hmm.
are in their cell phone today and they just share the number or airdrop the number or whatever, I mean, it's the technology is wonderful today. I believe that if you're focused, you can really build a wonderful lifestyle business for a single owner operator is about 450 customers.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful deal. And you can literally do that in 2 years.
See, it's funny, Teddy, because I tell these guys this stuff all the time, and sometimes they think I'm making it up, and just having fun. They, the fans and the people that listen, and they've always got my back, and we're just having fun because we're all in this together, But sometimes people are like, poke fun, and I'm like, hey, listen, 14 years ago, I passed out 5,000 paper flyers, like physically walked my whole city. And I was on the other side of it. I would say, hey, what took me 10, 12, 14 years to do, listening to like YouTube videos from me and other guys and podcasts from me and other guys and, trade events and networking events. I'm like, I said, if you got the desire, like you should be able to do in 3 years what took me 10. And it's funny, like, I would imagine that you're probably not a binge listener to our podcast, which is okay. Which is funny, but you just said something that I, try to parrot and echo all the time, that like, you should be able in today's climate, and plus it's a pretty pro-business climate, be able to chisel out your chunk of the pie in the industry very quickly. Now, it doesn't come without hard work. That's the other oar in the water. But I always have such respect for guys that built these, $1 million, $5 million, $10 million businesses in like the 80s and 90s and 2000s, because literally it was door-to-door knocking campaigns, canvassing campaigns, radio, all very expensive forms of traditional marketing. And so nowadays, like you said, $250, you can, put a Facebook ad on and target, 30,000, women between age 30 and 65 who make all the purchasing decisions in the homes with, target marketing between, household average incomes of $50,000 to $120,000 a year, in a 20-mile radius or 20-minute radius, and play that stuff nonstop for $250 a month. And I mean, it's just so exciting. And so I think it's wide open. And the industry.
Well, I think that something that you said a while ago that was important. If I was to have a group of young business owners sitting in front of me, the biggest thing, we're talking about practical. How do we put boots on the ground? How to do it, and that's wonderful.
Yep.
But I would encourage you to, if you're not hungry, if you're not passionate about growing your business, why are you doing what you do? I think that is something that you need to really think about. For me, I grew up extremely poor. I mean, extremely poor.
Yeah, I feel you.
And I wanted my kids, I had 4 children, and I wanted them to have all the advantages that I did not have. And maybe I did that to a fault, but nevertheless, that hunger inside me, I can still remember just absorbing while I was going from lawn to lawn, and back then with my Walkman or my whatever on my side while I was spraying, and I was so hungry that for my children not to live the way I lived, that I would be crying, literally crying, going down the road because I wanted that so bad.
That's awesome.
And so I was willing to go out. I mean, we had this explosive growth for my friend's business because I put out 52,000 flyers in 9 months, mailbox to mailbox to mailbox.
Wow.
And it was just being hungry. And if today it is easier to do, but that hunger still has to exist. And it has to exist so bad. You've got to want it almost as bad as you want air. And if you do that, you'll grab a hold of that, whatever it takes, rail and get up the ladder. And that's probably one of the things that will trigger you to do. You'll work harder than you ever dreamed you would. You will become smarter. You will seek more knowledge if you're humble and hungry. Humble and hungry. And if you'll just put some hard work to it with some smart work, success is going to hit you right in the face.
Teddy, this is awesome stuff, man. Like, I'm just listening. I'm just like soaking it in, brother. This is, it warms my heart to hear, people talk like this still, because not everybody does. And again, it doesn't matter if you're 25 or 45. What you just said is like pure truth and pure. I mean, it's worked for you. It's worked for friends of mine that adopt the same philosophy and attitude and work ethic. And it's working for me too, because I share a lot of parallels to your story. And sometimes people wonder, why do you work so hard? I go, because, if you knew where I came from, and you wanted to change your stars, if you will, and then you found a vehicle to do it, and then you saw results coming from it too. And I mean, like, how could you not be motivated? How could you not hustle on 5 hours of sleep every night? I mean, and be more awake and have the lights on in your eyes, if you will, compared to the guy who got 8 hours of sleep and, is working a 40-hour week job, but just unfortunately has no passion or purpose or drive or hunger, like you were just alluding to. So it's so cool, man.
I've always said I would rather burn out than fade away. And, that light that I feel that burns in my belly. I'm an entrepreneur by DNA, I think.
Right.
But we live in the greatest country, Brian, on the planet. And when I had very little opportunity when I got here, and I saw this business and I saw that I could do it, because it's not a business that requires hundreds of thousands of dollars to get started.
Sure.
And all I needed to do is go and work hard. And I lived a life, and my children lived a life that I never even dreamed of. I mean, I never even thought, when I moved here to be a financial planner, I mean, I'd already gotten some things figured out in the Army and my dream had woken up. And some people say, man, you're corny saying, that your dream and da. If you're not dreaming, you're dying. I'll be 49 years old this Saturday.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
And dude, I'm still burning up for life, and I didn't want to sit and just fade away and put 40 years somewhere, and then all of a sudden I'm old and I retire, and they say on average about 7 years later you die.
Right.
I didn't want to do that, dude. I wanted to go for it, and I probably put more hours in 17 years than most people do in a 40-year career.
Amen.
And I loved every freaking minute of it.
You're a butt kicker, brother.
I was going after my dream, man, and I got it. And my kids lived very privileged.
Yeah.
I was able to do things for them that I'm sure that my parents wish they could have done for me, but I was not going to wish. I was going to do.
Amen.
And thank God we live in a country where we can do that. And I'm excited every day when I get up. I come to Graham and I do a great job because they offer an awesome product in an industry I love. But man, at the end of the day, my dream is my dream, and I will either have it or they will put my old ass in a graveyard going for it,
Graham, Teddy, I love it.
A bunch out there.
Well, I love it, man. You're good stock. It's fun. Dude, you got to get passionate. You got to get fired up. And I love getting my Southern friends on the podcast because, I'm in Michigan and we talk fast and we sound like we're selling even when we're not selling, and I get some of my Southern friends on and they talk slow and they're very nice and they're very cordial and they're very respectful, but you guys still have like the same fire, and it just makes me smile listening to you. Again, you're twice the age of some of these guys listening and probably working twice as hard, and I just think it's awesome, man. This is really, really good stuff. I just for time's sake, to be respectful of your calendar, if you want to pivot with me here and we'll transition a little bit, talking about Graham, because we did want to cover that. So you have this background for, like you said, almost 2 decades in the industry, spraying and being owner operator, and then growing a medium-sized company here. Let's talk a little bit more about Graham. They're sponsoring this episode. They wanted to get the word out a little bit more about their equipment. Frankly, I've seen Graham at the GIE. That's where I knew you guys most. And then when I was talking to you guys and also my friend Jason, knows you guys, and I said, oh, well, if Jason knows you guys and he wants to give that endorsement, I said, cool, then let's have a conversation, because I really respect what my friend Jason has to say. And he's got a great fertilizer and treatment business down in Alabama. And so let's talk a little bit more about what you guys have, because you're taking this passion, knowing that you can change people's lives with a green industry business, doing treatments. Of course, you've transitioned into your life with, the next phase and kind of giving back and doing a supportive role with Graham and sales and some great stuff there. So let fastball right down the middle. Not to do a huge pitch for these guys, but I want to share what you guys got going on. Who is Graham? How long have you guys been around? And what do you guys offer? And then how can some of these guys benefit from the products and services that you guys have to offer?
Sure. Well, Graham has been around. We're in our 41st year, and Max Graham started the company. He worked for a large national company down here, and he hated the trucks that he had to spray out of.
Okay.
And he went and built him one in his basement. That was about 42 years ago.
Wow.
And Max was also a serial entrepreneur, and he went around to some of the other guys that were in the industry, and he said, hey, I think I've got a great way of building a much more high-quality truck. And boom, Graham was born. And
okay.
What we're really known for is quality of product. Now, and I can tell you, not just because I'm the national fleet manager here now.
Mm-hmm.
I was as we know, I own my business, and I'm like everybody else. I'm going to go and try to buy whatever I can buy, wherever I can buy it at the best price I can get it.
Sure.
And not to downplay, there's a lot of people that make some great equipment, but the stuff that I bought at Graham just flat out lasted longer. It was, I think I was telling you a story off air that I bought a truck here that was built here in 1994. I was the second owner, and I made about $4 million with it. And
hold on. We can't just gloss over that, brother. Like, you bought a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 rig or whatever, and you did $4 million in gross sales with that.
Yeah,
Gosh,
I did
awesome.
around $4 million worth of business with it, and then in 2018 I sold it to a guy in Houston, Texas.
Okay,
and it's still out there making money today, and that's not an abnormal or an anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I can tell you that with proper maintenance, I have no problem of telling you our spray equipment's going to last you 15 years or more. All too often, we will take the bed and spray equipment off and put it on a second and third truck that they've worn out.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an amazing product, and really the reason I came to work for Graham was it's, if you talk to any of us, as you can tell by my voice, we're just a bunch of guys that just some good old boys out of Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
That we have a passion because we know that these pieces of equipment that we're putting in these guys' hands is what puts food on their table, that puts their kids in school, puts clothes on their back,
mm-hmm.
and we're going to put the very best product that we can, that they can get the maximum return on investment. Like you were saying there a while ago, you invest, our bigger trucks, we have, on the back of the Isuzus, they can be anywhere between $50,000 and $80,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a piece of equipment that can go up in the back of pickup trucks that cost anywhere between, I don't know, $7,000 and $17,000.
Okay.
But it's not uncommon for those big trucks to make literally millions and millions of dollars. And even one in the back of a pickup truck, it's not abnormal to be able to do a $250,000 a year worth of business out of it. So, and for many, many years to come. That's what's important to us here.
That is like the most, the coolest conversation ever, because I'm so many, my brain's shooting like crazy fires right now, like lightning bolts, because it's all taking me back to my fertilizer days. And I was just talking to another friend of mine, Mike, and I'm like, hey dude, I just bought some land. Can I get your 3A and 3B books? And because I'm going to be taking care of my own property, and like usually I schlep it all off to him because he's my subcontractor and does a banger job. I totally take advantage of the situation because he makes it so easy for me to just sell work, and he knows I like to sell, and he likes making money too because he makes the majority on it, obviously. But I'm going back to my days when I used to be in a Rhino. Isuzu Rhino truck, and it was a closed cab back, working for the National guys, but the tank, the reel, the hose, it just, I don't know, maybe I have a little bit of PTSD too as well, Teddy, just to be honest, because I don't know what equipment they were using back in the day, but it's just funny because I remember pulling hose out, and I'd have 200 feet of hose, and I'd always need another 25 feet. I always needed another 25 feet. And then what happens is once the hose stops getting pulled on the reel, you would pull the gun, and the gun would just pop right off the end because you got so much pressure pulling that hose down in the backyard, and leaking fertilizer, leaking weed killer, just all these crazy stories back in the day. But when you had good days, and there was a bunch of good days, I remember, again, doing 12, 14, 1,500 a day. And I would just spray. We do some granular applications, and it was just I really didn't mind the job. Like I didn't like the working conditions because apparently they cheaped out on the air conditioning unit, and because why spend an extra $4 a day on gas, right, Teddy? It's 90 degrees out, full PPE, if you've never done this, you don't know what I'm talking about. It can be kind of brutal. A lot of lawn care guys listening in, Teddy, and they're like in shorts and t-shirts and, work boots, and they're hanging out. But when you spray, at least up here in Michigan, you have to have full PPE, rubber gloves, sometimes even face masks, and, it can be kind of miserable. Back in the day, we didn't have air conditioning, but I'm actually, as we're talking, I just did 180 days, with a working year up here at I think I just did 12 or 1,400 a day. It was like 225, so $225,000 that I never looked at how much revenue I actually did for those guys. But man, thinking out loud, I must have been doing $250,000 a year plus, because I was always the guy working late, doing extra apps on Saturday. We'd include merit, grub control in there, and we'd be doing an extra $100 per application, whatever it was back in the day. And I'd be ripping off invoices all day for 145, 220, 280, all day. And I was just like, man, I bet you I did some days where I was doing $2,000 a day when we did merit, and whatever, spring and summer. It's been 10 plus years ago. But when also I was just as you were talking, going through you guys' Instagram. If you guys haven't followed these guys on Instagram, go check them out at Graham_spray_equipment. Graham Spray Equipment on Instagram. The rigs are just incredible. I mean, do you guys sell a lot to owner operators? More, of course, you're doing national fleet sales. So do some guys buy one truck, other guys buy 10 trucks? Because I see a huge breadth on the Instagram with all the different photos of all the different rigs and the spray rigs, and they all look literally beautiful with your guys' equipment in them.
Yeah, we handle everything from the little guy who's got a 200-gallon sprayer thrown up in the back of an F-250, all the way up to national chains. And so, one of the things that not to sound to toot my own horn or anything, but when I came here, one of the big advantages that they had here already was that, like our general manager, for example, has worked here for 36 years. He started here sweeping floors, and now he's the general manager.
Wow.
So they have built these things taught by Max Graham and a gentleman who was a legend in the business. His name is Charlie Holloway.
Okay.
But what I brought was 22 years of actually spraying grass. And so in the last 3 years, I've gotten with the engineers, and I'm like, now look, from a practical day-to-day spray, here's what I saw, and here's the way I liked it, and da-da-da-da-da. And we just kind of put our heads together so that everybody from the little guy that's starting up in Michigan, that you guys predominantly have one type of grass, to the guy down here in Georgia that we have 4 types of grass and all of that, and we've came up with different designs depending on where you're at and the way that you run your business to give you maximum efficiency and longevity.
I love it.
That was what we've been able to do in the last few years of guys that was like me. See, I ran a company that was not only spray. We did lawn maintenance, and we did a little bit of landscape design and install.
Okay.
And so we've got everything from landscape bodied trucks that can be easily converted from spray truck to just right back to a mowing truck or whatever, to box trucks. A lot of our northern guys like box trucks because your winters just suck. And
they're brutal.
They love to be protected all the time, and it's so there. We've got a little bit of something for everybody now. And the great thing also about Graham is that we listen to our customer too. Is I've never sprayed grass in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, but I've got several customers that had, and I can relate to them. And when they tell me what their needs are, we're fully custom builder as well. And we have built some of the craziest things you've ever seen in your life to go spray grass, and the guys love it, and down to just like I say, just a little single tank in the back of a pickup truck. So
Well,
whatever you need, we got it for you.
I was gonna say I'm scrolling through Instagram, and first off, shout out to all the owner operators and the companies that have their Isuzus and other trucks all stickered up and lettered up, because beautiful Instagram, great post for all these guys too, with just how they're branding and marketing. But then I was just gonna say, like, all the different setups, you guys seem very versatile, and tons of different options out there with all the different spray rigs. Question, if you want to plug the all the different options that you guys have. So is there a like a volume seller or a top selling unit, or what can these guys expect if they go to Graham Spray Equipment's website, or they see you guys at GIE? I guess two questions. One, what are people normally looking at? Is there a model or a name that they get a lot of? And then number two, where can they get more info? Do you guys sell out of a just direct at a site one? Like where can guys get hooked up with Graham if they want to learn a little bit more info?
Well, you can always go to grahamse.com.
Okay, cool.
And you can request a quote, and it comes to us here. There's only two of us that sell here, and that is me and Dave Arnett.
Okay, cool.
And we get those requests. Probably to answer your question, what is something that is most common? Our Maverick series for the smaller guy that he's just a sole operator is a wonderful series. It's typically comes with a split tank. About everything we sell now comes with a split tank.
Okay.
Because of upselling potential, being able to do so right there on the route. That's a wonderful series for the guys that run a full service lawn care company. The Lawnscaper variety. Again, if you go to grahamse.com, go to the products tab. Mm-hmm. There's a tab there that says online rig brochure. That's going to show you more of the Isuzu cab overs. I do one of the things that now again, not to try to be a salesman here, but just a little tip for guys. Mm-hmm. When I moved out of, I started like everybody else. I threw a tank up in the back of a truck, back of a F-250 pickup. Mm-hmm. When I came out of that and I went to a little larger truck with an Isuzu, I jumped from 350 customers to 825 customers in 18 months. Wow. And I began to hear all over my little community out here, I see your trucks everywhere. I see your trucks everywhere. Well, I only had one. So, that tells you the statement that it was making.
That's awesome.
Right. And plus, it just eased to work out of. To do this business out of the back of a pickup truck is the hardest way to do it. Reaching over and getting bags and not having enough room for your backpack sprayers or your that kind of thing. You're so cramped up. Mm-hmm. So when you get to the flatbed series, and again, there's a reason, and I won't go into plugging that, but there is a reason that about 95% of everything we sell leaves here on an Isuzu pickup, on an Isuzu cabin chassis.
Okay.
There's a reason for that. But
I love it.
Like I say, the more that you can get into that, the quicker you can and get out of your everyday driver, mm-hmm. The better. And it's going to be better for your lifestyle.
Yeah. I like it. I'm looking at the online brochure as you talk, and first off, great marketing material. So if somebody is spraying, like, you can actually make a decision, see stuff online before you have to pull the trigger or get something in, and then so it's BYOT, bring your own truck. So you have to you do have to bring the flatbed truck, or even F450 or 350, because you gotta have sometimes they have those flatbeds on them, right, Teddy? So you can maybe use that, but I would say probably the is the Isuzu the most common platform that you guys see that you add these tanks to?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. And the reasoning is it's got General Motors product in it, mm-hmm. Engine, transmission, so it's easy to get serviced.
Yep.
But also the price. I mean, the price of of our Maverick series with our aluminum bed on it is going to be somewhere around the 40,000 range.
Okay.
And that truck is the equivalent of an F450. And if you start with a F450 cabin chassis, they're going to be $45,000.
Gotcha.
So you're saving, $5,000 there. Typically, we can put together one of those Maverick spray rigs for about what a nice F250 would cost, somewhere in the mid 50s. And you've got a complete spray rig with an aluminum bed that's gonna last 25, 30 years, so that's the main reason.
Do you guys, not to go down a rabbit hole here, but for some of these guys that are spraying and they're trying to upgrade and continue to grow or, diversify with treatments, do they call you and try to line up what Isuzu, to get, or do you guys have the spray equipment and an Isuzu package where, it gets ordered right to, I don't know, the factory or something like that? Like you already have these systems ready to go?
Yeah. If you go to that, if they go to the rig brochure, you'll see the layout, and then the next page is the cabin chassis that goes with that.
Yes.
And so if they talk to me, we're talking about a rig setup. I'm going to know the proper cabin chassis we need, and then they just purchase it as one truck. They finance the spray equipment and all the upfitting in with it, and it's just a real seamless transaction.
Wow, that's actually really convenient. That is really, really cool. I don't do treatments, but it just takes it back, and I enjoyed doing treatments. I enjoyed the selling. I enjoyed the commissions because I was a Mr. Salesman, and so I always did like $1,200-$1,300 a day in production, but I was busy selling everybody on merit. Was it gypsum? And man, we taking it back here, Teddy. We got paid really good on aerations, and so I was always selling those core aerations. And I owe it to the national guys, man. They made spring aerating a thing here in Michigan. So I'm not even going to get into it, but this is good. This is really, really good. As we wrap things up here, first off, I super appreciate your time. In fact, we actually bumped this interview forward because I got done early and you had some stuff going on in the evening, and it just totally worked out perfect. Anything that you want to leave these guys with, Graham? Again, I appreciate you, sponsoring this episode and sharing a little bit more. And if these guys want to catch up with you or Graham, where can they find you? And any last thoughts that you have while you're here?
Sure. One, I just want to say that I hope God blesses you with everything that you work so hard for, and everyone in these times is healthy and all of that. And of course, to get in touch with us, if you go to grahamse.com, there's a chat on there that they can answer some questions. But I do promise this, that we're going to give you the very, very best service I believe in the world. And I know it sounds kind of corny and people throw it out there maybe a little too much, but when you do buy with the Graham, or I've got a bunch of guys that has never bought a thing from me yet, that I mentor them through. We really, really pray for your success and try to help you grow your business. Because the more you grow, we grow, but we're just a bunch of guys down here that love you, and we appreciate the business, and if there's anything we can do, please give us a call.
Yeah.
Our phone number is 770-942-1617.
Okay.
And again, grahamse.com.
I love it. And don't forget to follow these guys on Graham_spray_equipment on Instagram if you guys want to catch up with these guys and get a little bit more info. But Teddy, you guys are good people, man. You guys just seem like good stock and just good quality people. I don't know if that's a Southern thing or just a Graham thing too, because
it's very much a Graham thing. I promise you.
I love it. Well, all my Southern folks that get on the podcast, they're all very cordial, very respectful. I get my my northern people, and we all just scream at each other, so, but, which is so true, but, you guys are great. And, seriously, I appreciate the time as well. And, it makes me reminisce too, back in the days where I was working at one of the national fertilizer companies, and they were a good opportunity too. But, I see so many guys, and all you guys listening in, you guys asked me a ton of questions about fertilizing, treatment, profit margins. There's a lot of money to be made doing that. And, it's a great, transition, or, like Teddy said, upsell. If you guys are, already doing lawn maintenance and landscaping, and you got 2, 3, 4, 500 customers, and, you're trying to grow, you don't necessarily have to just continue to get more customers, although you could. You can just diversify services, add a spray rig, add a landscaping crew. Usually the two typical options for companies to continue to grow, and you don't need to go get more customers necessarily. You can just start adding treatments. One thing I'll just say, just for all intents and purposes, make sure you do it correctly. If you got to get licensed, if you got to do paperwork and all that mess, every region is different. Up here in Michigan, it's pretty critical that you do that. You got to be licensed to spray in general. So just make sure you guys are following the rules, whatever you guys do, and I love it. So hey, Teddy, any other things that you got for me? If not, we'll wrap it up. And just thanks again for joining us on the show.
Hey, buddy. Thank you again for having me. I appreciate you.
You bet, brother. All right. Well, hey, by the way, we'll see you guys at GIE. Forgot to plug that. We'll definitely see Graham down at GIE. And so if you guys are walking the show, put it on your calendar or your map to plug those guys, and then come visit them at their booth. And Teddy will probably be there. So make sure you come over there and say, hey, I heard you on Brian's podcast. And Teddy, you did a great job, Brian. He's kind of a dork, but make sure you go say hey to Teddy. So
thank you so much.
Love it, brother. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this episode of Fullerton Unfiltered. We'll definitely catch up with all of you guys on the next one.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.